This morning at church, as our pastor works through the book of Romans, which, by the way, I have to say, there's nothing like exegetical teaching, just teaching from the word, verse by verse. It's wonderful. Anyway, we're in Romans 6, talking about spiritual disciplines, putting off certain things, putting on certain things. And one of the spiritual disciplines that's very important in terms of maturing as a Christian is forgiveness, is intentionally seeking to forgive and accepting forgiveness from the Lord. And it made me think back to the many situations I've experienced in life. And let me say before I go any further, this is not a pity party. I'm not complaining, throwing a pity party. Just explaining as a seasoned Christian the reality of what it is to be a Christian in this world. When I gave my life to Christ, I kind of intuitively understood that the world would be antagonistic toward me and my faith. I knew that because Scripture told me that I would experience trial, tribulation, persecution from the world. And certainly in walking as a Christian, following Christ, I would identify with, I would walk in his sufferings. It would be a privilege for me to suffer in the name of Christ. So I understood that without me ever having to provoke anything. I knew that people would be anti-Christ, anti-me. What I didn't know, what I didn't anticipate and have since learned much about is friendly fire, which is the most painful of all of the things that can happen to a biblical Christian, and that is other self-professed Christians lying about us, gossiping about us, slandering us, mistreating us, shunning us. In my lifetime, I've had death threats against me. I've had so many things spoken against me, wicked, evil, slanderous, false, gossipy things, reputation being ruined by self-professed Christians. And it would be disingenuous for me to say, oh, I've kind of gotten over that. It's not a big deal. No, it hurts. Friendly fire hurts. And let me also say that I am certain that I have been on the giving end of that unintentionally, but I've hurt people. I've said things and done things that have hurt other Christians. But when I discover that, whether by revelation from the Lord or someone pointing it out, my intent, my first step is to seek reconciliation, to ask forgiveness. It's just kind of a natural discipline in my life because I'm not going to throw the first stone, but when it perpetuates, it's very difficult. And in the 44 years I've walked with the Lord, there are people that I used to serve as a pastor, students I used to serve as an educator, who won't speak to me, who malign me, slander me, and yet they claim to still be following Christ. I'm putting all of us in the same boat, including myself. The Bible's clear. We are forgiven as we forgive, as a discipline. Of course, Christ forgave all through the cross. But in terms of health, spiritual health, and growth and maturity, if we have aught, as the King James Bible calls it, if we have aught against somebody, we need to go reconcile with them. We need to ask forgiveness. We need to clear that air. The reason is that when we don't, it's a foothold for Satan, and he wreaks havoc on us. So maybe you're someone that has experienced what I've experienced, that I've said before. I know it sounds horrible, but it's true. Self-professed Christians can be some of the meanest people on the planet. But who among us can throw that first stone? I encourage you to stop, ponder for a moment. Is there anybody that we need to seek forgiveness from, or that we need to forgive as a spiritual discipline? If we were to walk in just that discipline, we would see a lot of healing, a lot of wholeness, and a lot of health, not only in our lives, but in the lives of those around.